Ayin Vav on the base at the Mishnah. Kaisel should be in base Chatzeres Kavaya Asara. We're dealing with two issues over here. One issue is two courtyards that are divided because there's a wall between them or behind them or whatever. So can they make an Eruv together? But the second issue is can they join together because there's no door? That's going to come up. The second issue is what about the usage of the wall? They have a wall. Definitely the courtyards aren't, if the courtyards didn't make an Eruv together, so they can't carry one to another. So, but there's also a wall there. So they each can only carry in their own courtyard. So who has access to that wall? The wall itself is an issue. So the wall is Gvaya Sara, Varecha Barba, and it's 4 Tvachim wide. Now, right now, Rashi tells us doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how wide the wall is. It says Recha Barba, that's because later on in the Mishnah it's going to be relevant. But in this first case, it really doesn't matter. In the first case, we're talking about joining the two courtyards together. It says Ma'arvin Shnai Ma'arvin Echad. They need separate Eiruvin because there's a wall and there's no door. Okay, now this is where it gets relevant, the thickness of the wall. If on the top of the wall there were fruits, each neighbor can go up to the top of the wall and eat on the top of the wall. The only issue is, but they can't take it down. The wall itself has its own rishus, and because it's 10 tvachim tall and it's 4 tvachim wide, it's considered a rishus b'fnei atzmai, and so they can go up there and eat. The Gemara is going to discuss what happens if it's less than 4 tvachim. Doesn't tell us. Nifritza kaisel ad eser ames. Let's say the wall is broken down in one area. So if it's up to 10 ames, ma'arvin shnayim, that's considered a pesach, a doorway. The Rishonim and the Achronim tell us that there's gefulfen. It means there's there are protrusions in the wall that are still there, the protrusions sticking out. That makes it like there was a wall here. So otherwise, if it's totally broken down, then it's one Eruv. It's not an issue of Marvin or Marvin Shnayim. So Marvin Shnayim, not Marvin Echad. Neshuk Pesach, because that's a doorway up to 10 amos. Yesimikan, it's more than 10 amos, then Marvin Echad by Marvin Shnayim. Then you make one Eruv, not two Eruvim. Okay, the Gemara right away jumps into that question that we mentioned in the Mishnah, that if the wall is 10 tvachim high and there's 4 tvachim on the surface, on the top of the wall, what happens? Ein bayarba mai. Let's say you don't have 4 tvachim. You didn't tell us what the din is. If there's 4 tvachim, you can go up onto the wall and you can eat fruits that are on the wall. You can move them around. But it's not 4 tvachim. Amarav Avir. Amarav, Rav says, Avir stay rishuyes sheletes by. It's very interesting. He says that every inch of the top is like a crossover between one rishus to the other. There's two neighbors and they're sharing a wall. If the wall is 4 tvachim, then it gets its own status. If the wall isn't 4 tvachim wide, the thickness of the wall, then on the top of the wall, every inch of that wall is part the owner on the right and part the owner on the left. So you can't move it afilu k'mulay nima, because every inch you're crossing over from one rishus to the other. Sort of like the Bein Hashmashas sort of suffix, that where's the line? The line is like everywhere. So Okay, very, very big chumrah. This is the opinion of Rav. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Rabbi Yochanan goes exactly the opposite. He goes Lakula. Amar Elu Malim Mikan Beichlan, Elu Malim Mikan Beichlan. You notice there's a distinction here. There's a difference. The Mishnah said Elu Oilen. That means you can go up to the wall and eat on the wall. But from Rabbi Yochanan, in Rabbi Yochanan's case, where you don't have 4 tvachim, it's not just going up. It's not just going up onto the wall. It's raising up. You can take things from your rishus and put it onto the top of the wall. That's a huge chiddush that we didn't have. Rashi points out you can take off the wall also. When do you say you have to keep it up on the top of the wall? That's if the wall is 4 tvachim. If the wall isn't 4 tvachim, then you can even put it on the wall and take it off the wall. Does anyone notice is my internet freezing? I see Ramesha, sometimes I see it stops. Like it's good. Okay, good. Tanan. So based on this, we have we're going to compare this to the Mishnah. It says Elo oilam mikan ba'ichlin, Belo oilam mikan ba'ichlin. These can go up. You can go up and eat on the top of the wall. That's what the Mishnah said. You can do whatever you need to eat the fruits that are sitting on top of the wall. Oilin in ma'alin lai. You can go up, yes, but you can't raise up. It means you can't bring things up. It says yesh by if there's 4x4 oilin in ma'alin lai, then you're not allowed to raise up to that rishus. But in if it's not its own rishus, then ma'alin you're also allowed to raise it up. Rabbi Yochanan follows his reason, his own svara. This is Rabbi Yochanan Shita, that it's more lenient if you don't have 4 tvachim up there on the thickness of the wall. The Chiyasar Rabdimi Am Rabbi Yochanan. Rabdimi came. Rabdimi was the traveler. He said over in the name of Rabbi Yochanan in Eretz Yisrael and Tiberia. He said, "Makim Shein Bar Balaba Mutal Bnei Rishus Rabim Bnei Rishus Yachad Lakatef Alav Bachli Achlif." We had this in Masechet Shabbos. If you have it's an amud, any area that's in between a Rishus Yachad and a Rishus Rabim, that's 3 tvachim off the ground, so it's not considered like the Rishus Rabim or like the Rishus Yachad. If it would be 4 tvachim wide, then it would be its own rishus, it would be a karmelas. But if it's not 4 tvachim wide, then it doesn't have its own rishus. It's considered a makam p'tur. Makam p'tur allows me to take from rishus yachid and to put it on it, and also to take from rishus rabim and to put it on it, and vice versa. So really, this area is like a free zone. You can move from one to the other. The only thing is, Rabbi Yochanan says, but v'vad shlo yachlifu. You can't. You have to like keep track of the items that you can't take from Rishus Yachid, put it onto this area, this makam p'tur, and then bring it over to Rishus Rabim. It's like these places where you can cross borders. You go to that country, then they let you in, and it's okay. V'vad shlo yachlifu. The Gemara says, "V'rav lesli d'Ravdimi." What do we learn over here? We're learning that you can go from, basically what Rabbi Yochanan is telling me with this example is back to his shita, that I have 2 neighbors and there's a wall between them. They didn't make an eruv between each other, but the wall is considered like an exempt area. So each one can go up to the wall and they can bring things up. Now, he didn't tell us about Shleach Lifa, but I guess that's understood. Now, Rav held exactly not like that. He said that you can't move anything. Not only you can't bring up from your side, but you can't, even things that are up there, you can't move. Rabbi Yochanan tells us that in Hilchos Shabbos, not between Chatzeros, between Rishuyos or Rishus Yachad, Rishus Rabim, he says that if there's a makam p'tur in the middle, you can bring from Rishus Yachad and put it on it. You can bring from Rishus Rabim and put it on it. See? That's what we're doing here. Same thing. You can bring from one chatzer, put it on the wall, another chatzer, put it on the wall. But Rab also holds with that. So why does he say that the wall is such a chumrah when between Rosh Yachid and Rosh Rabim it's mutter? The Gemara answers, you're right. Rav Taka holds that by Rishuyas Deraisa. Rishus Yachid, Rishus Rami agrees. Ach me'askinen b'Rishuyas Derabanan. Amazing. The Chacham Masa Chizuk L'Devrei Misa Mishal Teira. You're right, if it would have been Rishus Yachid, Rishus Rabim, it would have been Mutter to use the Makam P'tur. But here, because it's a rabbinic law, and people take rabbinic law lightly, so they have to strengthen the rabbinic law to make sure that you don't take it lightly. So because it's two chatzeres, it's really two rishuyas hayachid, and really there's no issue. It's just you can't go from one rishus to another rishus, even though it's both rishus hayachid. You can't carry from one to another. Or here we're dealing with rishus hamishutefes, from rishus hayachid to rishus hamishutefes. You can't move items. So Rav is saying that this is only we only say this by Yadin Derabanan, that we only have this chumrah by Rishuyas Derabanan. Okay. Amar Rabba. Some say it's Amar Rav Huna. Some say it's Amar Rabba bar Rav Huna. Yeah. Amar Rav Nachman. Saying the name of Rav Nachman. Kaisel shebein shtei chatzeres. Tzidei echad gvay asar tfachim. V'tzidei echad shavel aretz. Again, we're talking about if you have a regular kaisel between two properties, so then you can't make an eruv between them. But who gets to use the wall? So we're going to learn over here that the wall is going to go. It's a din in Hilchos Shabbos, not a din in Choshen Mishpat. The usage of the wall on Shabbos is going to go to the one that has easier access to that wall. It's going to be his. If one has a very difficult time using it because of this scenario, the position of the wall and his property, then the other one is going to have the rights to that wall. So here we have a wall. I can show you a picture. I don't think he did the best job on it. Let's see. Okay, here we have our wall and there's fruits on the top and they're using it. That was the Mishnah. We said if it's broken down, we said that there's 10 tfachim. It's the difference. The 10 amas, I mean. Let's see. Okay, here's the picture that we're dealing with. Now, the confusing part is it's hard to recognize that this is one person's property. You see that line there? You should have put like a person or a bicycle standing up here on this ledge or something. And that way you would see that there's a property down there. That's the 10 tfachim. This fellow has a 10 tfachim wall. This fellow here looks like he has a 5 or 4 tfachim wall because the elevation of his land is high. So who has easier access to the wall? It's going to be the one on the top. For him, the wall. See, when we say over here shavel aretz, we don't mamish mean shavel aretz. We mean that it's not 10 tfachim. Anything that's not 10 tfachim we call shavel aretz. So the one that's shavel aretz, that's within 10 tfachim. So nice lezeh shavel aretz mishum dabel lezeh tashmisha benachas lezeh tashmisha kasha. This one is easier to use and that one is harder to use. It goes to the one that has easier access to the wall. Hilchos Shabbos. Hilchos Eiruvin. Amar Rav Shizvi, Amar Rav Nachman, Charitz can have a similar halacha, except this is going down. This is not a wall. This is like a ditch in the ground. Charitz shebein shtei chatzeres. If there's this ditch that goes in between the two courtyards, from one side the property is 10 tfachim tall, above the ditch. But on the other side, it doesn't have the same depth. It's within 10 tfachim. We call that shavel aretz. So nice and early shavel aretz. Mishum the havalei lezet tashmisha benachas lezet tashmisha bekasher b'chulam. The printer didn't have the patience to finish it up. And like as we said, that anyone that has easier access to it, he's the one that gets the rights to it. Now we have two statements here in the name of Rav Nachman. One was Amar Rabbi bar Rav Huna, Amar Rav Nachman about the wall. The other one was Rav Shizbi, Amar Rav Nachman about the ditch. Gemara says a tzrichi. I need both of these statements. One statement wouldn't have taught me the other one. Yashmin and Kaisel, if it would have only told me the statement of Rav Nachman about a Kaisel, Mishum the Begavayim, Mishtam Shianshi. People use a ledge. That's something that would be normal to use. But no one uses a ditch. They don't use that. Say Malay. I would say it's considered kasha l'shnayim. It's hard for both of them to use. So there is no tashmisha benachas yet. So it would be it's kasha l'shnayim. Then it would depend if it's arba. If there's four tvachim, it would be rishus b'fnei atzmei, and then we'd go back to the machlokes. Yashminan b'charitz. If it would only tell me the ditch, mishum delay b'isa tashmisha over there, I'm not concerned that something's going to fall. Can't fall off a ditch. Aval kaisel the b'isa tashmisha, but something could fall off the wall, and maybe he doesn't want to use the wall for his item. It could fall and break. They malay would say that that's not considered tashmisha benachas. So tzricha. It's necessary. Okay, now we have an interesting bunch of interesting cases, all about how could we diminish the size of this wall if it's 10 tefachim. It's similar to Hilchas Sukkah, where you have a sukkah that's too tall and they try to diminish it by putting things on the floor. So over there you have an open area. You're putting things on the floor. You're going to raise the floor. You won't have the schach won't be too distant from the ground. Which that the shear was 20 amas. Over here, the wall is 10 tefachim. Let's say you're coming to make the wall less than 10 tefachim. Now, if the wall is less than 10 tefachim, then that makes your side tashmish benachas, and the other side not. So you'll gain access to the wall if you don't have the 10 tefachim. If the miyat has 4 tefachim length along the wall, then that's considered like an entrance to the kaisel. And then that whole kaisel becomes, you have access to. Then it's mutter l'shtamish b'chol kaisel kulei. V'im lav, but if not, ein mishtamish al k'negen amiyat, then you just have access to that one spot.
Is this, he's making Baalamata, is this, when did he do this? Not on Shabbos.
Well, we're thinking that he's putting something on the ground.
Because he said, I mean, Rashi says here is tel afar.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what we're going to see. It has to be before Shabbos. If that's the case, yeah. It has to be before Shabbos.
Okay, so I was just double checking. Okay.
Yeah. So he gives, Rashi gives 3 examples. He shows them over here. I'll show you the picture. Here's the charitz, by the way. You see one side is higher than the other one. One side is 10 tefachim, and the other side. Okay, in this picture here, he gives you also the 4th possibility, which we didn't learn yet in the Gemara. That's going to come up soon. He gives you that there's an itztaba, there's a platform that you place, telafar, or he calls this pisperson, which I'm not sure what that is. I thought it was some sort of reeds that were put into the ground. But anyway, whatever it is, it's little pieces of something that would raise the floor so that it's within within the 10 tefachim to the wall, which would give him access to the wall. What the Gemara is going to tell me in a moment is that you actually remove something from here. We just said that if it's 4 tefachim wide, then it gives you access to the whole wall. If it's less than 4 tefachim wide, then you just have that area. And the Gemara is going to ask why. What is that? Less than 4 tefachim. How does it just give you this one spot on the wall? It's going to give you access to. The Gemara is going to ask me, Manavshach, like how does that work? Okay, we'll see in a moment. If it's not 4 tefachim along the wall, the raised area, so then So then you only have that one spot on the wall that you have access to, but not the whole wall. Versus manusha. I ahani miyuta doesn't work, that raised area. You now have access to the wall. You can now go up, climb up on your ledge, go up to the wall, and use the whole wall. Ilayahani, but if it doesn't have, then why do you have any access? If it's too small. Amravina, it says it's not that you have access to the wall. You took something off the top. Once you take something off the top, so then that part of the wall is, now we're going to divide it up. What did you take off the top? If you took off an area of 4 tvachim, then that actually gives you access to the whole wall. But if you took off an area less than 4 tvachim, in other words, you removed the stone from the top of the wall. So if you didn't do that, then it's just like one spot that you have, which is like a ledge in the wall that you have access to. It doesn't give you access to the whole wall if it's not 4 tvachim. If it's 4 tvachim, yes. Then it's like an entranceway, a doorway to the wall. Okay. Amar Rabbi Yechiel. Yechiel says, Kafa, it's not so common, Rabbi Yechiel, but he's going to make a big deal over here. So, Kafa Sal, if you turn over a basket, some sort of basin, Memayat, that's going to diminish the height of the wall. Because you put it on the ground, you've now raised the ground, you can step on that and go up to the wall. It's not mukta. It's there. You remove it. It's not considered like you diminish the size of the wall. It's like you put a chair or something, and that doesn't diminish the wall. Like no, you attached it to the ground. What's the difference if you attached it to the ground? We're going to bring a raya that there's certain times you're allowed to remove things from the ground. Obviously, not plants or things that are growing. Not in a case of binyan, but over here, so what? You're going to lift it off. But Tanya, we have a brisa. Haga. Haga is an unripe fig. Shetmina beteven. That you put it into straw. Today we would use a paper bag. There's unripe fruits. You put in a paper bag, it ripens. The gases collect, and they do that for the bananas. They want them to ripen exactly at the right time when they come to the markets. So they spray the gas in the trucks. It's all ripened together. So
it's also how they get you to buy green estrugs. To tell you to put it in the paper.
Yeah, that's right. The charara shetmina begechalim, or a cake, I guess, that wasn't really finished cooking, and they would cook it on coals. So they put it on the coals, and now the coals have gone out, or else there would be a problem with moving it because you would be putting out the fire or whatever. So anyway, the coals have gone out, but it's on the gechalim. Imagula mixas, if it's slightly open on the top, so nitla b'Shabbos, you can take it out on Shabbos. So we're saying that you can move things. Teven is muktzah, straw is muktzah. Because why is it muktzah? Because it's used to making bricks. And you just stuck this in it. But if the fig that you put into the teven has a little point that's sticking out, you can pull it out. Shows us a picture over here. What we're saying is by our basket, you should be able to remove the basket on Shabbos. Once you remove the basket on Shabbos, then you have a problem. So here he's talking about the. That's the next case. This is the time in Lefes. This is the time. That's the next case. Okay, we'll leave that. We'll come back to that. That's putting a turnip or something in the ground. Here's our overturned sefel, our basin that's turned over, which makes it only 9 tefachim, let's say, to to the wall. We said shechibra be'afar, and it's attached to the ground. The chiddush that we're about to answer now is that there's a lip. If there was no lip on the bottom of it, which when it's straight up, it's on the top of it. Now it's turned over, it's on the bottom. If there's no lip, then you would be able just to lift it out and it would be no problem. As we just learned that you can take a fig out of there. But we're going to learn that the lip is going to create the problem because it's going to move the dirt when you pull it out. Okay. This la agnayim, that there's a lip. There's a something around the top. So when you move it, when you lift it up, you can't move it on Shabbos. If you can move it on Shabbos, then it's going to be muktzah. It's mazes off, or you're moving something that's muktzah. So therefore, it's going to diminish the size of the wall. So what? We know that you're allowed to move, let the dirt move sometimes, but you can put a turnip or tznoin tachas a gefen under a grapevine. And what you're doing over here, really, you're not allowed to grow vegetables in a vineyard. What you're doing over here is that the vegetable grew somewhere else. The problem is that you want to preserve it or let it ripen. So you put it in the ground to preserve it. So putting it in the ground under a grapevine is not a problem. If some of the leaf, whatever the stem of the turnip or the radish is sticking out, then you don't have the following problems. Lemishim kalayim, it's not a problem of kalayim, of forbidden mixtures, grapes with vegetables. Lemishim meiser. Meiser is an interesting point. If it grows again, then you have to take meiser off the growth. Because maybe you took meiser before, but if it continues to grow, you didn't take meiser from the new part that grew. But here, it's not growing. You're just putting it there to preserve. Let's say it was a Shemitah year. You're not allowed to plant. It's not a problem. And you tell them b'Shabbos, that's what we were looking for. And you're allowed to remove it on Shabbos. You see, even though it's in the ground, the Gemara says, by tricha de by marva chatzina. Over here, we're talking about that in order to remove it, you need some sort of tool. Marva chatzina, a tool to remove it. That's a different story. So there, it was just, you just pull it out and it would come right out. Over here, you need a tool, so that's why you can't move it on Shabbos, and that's why it would be mamayat. It would diminish the size of the wall because it's stuck there for Shabbos.
That would have been a nice name for a store, Marva Chatzina.
Yeah, like a Home Depot.
Marva Chatzina.
In England, they call them DIY. Home Depots are called DIY. That's that. Okay. Where did we learn this? We have a statement that Sulam HaMitzri, an Egyptian ladder, Einim Emayet, Hatsuri Emayet. If you put a ladder against the wall, so that would give you access to the wall. What type of ladder? Well, a Sulam HaMitzri is not considered a ladder that would diminish the size of the wall. But the tsuri ladder would give you access. Now, what's the difference? What's the mitzri ladder that is not satisfactory? Amri de kol she'im by arba chavakim. Anything that doesn't have 4 rungs. Doesn't have 4 rungs, then it's considered a small ladder. It's like a step stool. And the step stool you can move easily, so the step stool doesn't diminish the size of the wall. A larger ladder, that's going to be, it's hard to move. Possibly you're not even allowed to move something that's heavy. So that's considered that it's permanent and it's there and it diminishes the size of the wall. This Gemara taught me something. I remember in first grade, I had a Lubavitcher, Mora. So she said, The davening is a ladder. You're going up steps, and the ladder has 4 rungs. I remember thinking that my father has a ladder, and I think it had 5 or 6 rungs. So what's she talking about? Anyway, later on I read that what that means is Sulam Mutzav Arza is rung number 1. Reshim Magia Shemaima is rung number 2. Malachi Elikim Olam V'Yernaba is rung number 3. Inishem Nitzav Alav is rung number 4, which corresponds to Atzilus, whatever. Asiya Yitzir Bria. But now from this Gemara, I see no. There's a specific ladder that has 4 rungs, and this is what, not that that's not the chat, but there's a concept of a ladder with 4 rungs. Okay. Amri le Ravacha Breder Rava Ravashi. Ravacha, the son of Rava, says to Ravashi, my time the Sulam HaMitzri Bleimamayit. Why doesn't the Sulam HaMitzri diminish the size of the wall? Which is very important. Diminishes the size of the wall, gives the person access to the wall. If there are 2 of them, then it's considered like a doorway, right? Amar le, he says, you don't know. Hadamar Ravacha Breder Barada Amar Rav Hamnuna Amar Rav Shem Davle Davar Shnittel B'Shabbos. Like we learned before, a Davar Shnittel B'Shabbos, it doesn't diminish the size of the wall. The whole Davar Shnittel B'Shabbos in Mamayit, it doesn't diminish. The Gemara says Afilu Hachi Afilu Tzurinami. So what about the Sulam, the Tyrian? Is that what Tzuri is? This other type of ladder that has 4 rungs. It says Hasam Kaivdei Kaivai. The weight makes it permanent. It's not really attached to the wall, but it's heavy. That makes it as if it's attached. Amar Abaya. If there's a wall between 2 properties, 2 courtyards, and the wall is 10 tvachim, Sulam, v'iniach Sulam rachav arba mikan, v'Sulam rachav arba mikan, and then you put a ladder on each side, and the ladder is 4 tvachim wide. Now the ladder doesn't have 3 tvachim between them, the 2 ladders. Let me show you the picture, you'll see. Okay, that would be the Sulam HaMitzri. There's only 3 rungs. And now we're dealing with a taller ladder, and then there's another ladder on this side. So if the space between the 2 ladders is less than 3 tvachim, then it's considered like a Pesach, it's just a ladder that goes over and you walk right over. Excuse me. So, Memayat Shleisha, but if there is Shleisha tvachim, then Eina Memayat. Then it's not going to diminish the size of the wall for both sides. So how's it going to work? I see each one has a ladder. I guess we're not dealing with the top of the wall. We're dealing with making an Eruv between both properties. It's not considered a Pesach. That wouldn't explain it. So, let's go drop further here in the pictures. You'll see that if the wall is slightly wider, 4 tvachim wide, then, oh look, he left the footprints. Then you can walk along, then even if the ladders are more than 3 tvachim apart from each other, because you can go up on the wall and walk comfortably as a 4 tvachim ledge, then that's considered like a Pesach. It's going to be satisfactory. Okay, in the next Gemara, we're going to learn about an itztaba, which are platforms. And a platform needs to be placed on the ground. Anything that's in the air is not memayat, like a table, a chair, something, anything that has So if it's on the ground, it's great, if it's tall enough. But if you're trying to use the top one, then there's going to be an issue with it being a Maya. Let's see how that works now. Amar Rav Bibi Barabaya. Rav Bibi Barabaya says, "Bana itztaba al gavi itztaba." If you put a platform on top of another platform, that means the bottom one is on the ground, like you saw in the picture, and then there's another one that has legs that's above it. If the bottom one is 4 tvachim, then it's memayet. Then that's great. It works. Inami, or there's another option. If the bottom one is not 4 tvachim wide, but the top one is 4 tvachim wide, well, the top one doesn't work. However, but the gap between the top and the bottom and the top is not 3 tvachim. So I have lavut, which makes it attached to the ground, plus it's 4 tvachim wide. So it'd really be like a cone, an upside down cone, like a V shape. The bottom one is too narrow, but it's within 3 tvachim of the top one. That's going to give me an area of 4 tvachim, which would be memayet the kaisa. Amar Rab Nachman, Amar Rabbi Baravua. Nachman says in the name of his father, Rabbi Baravua Sulam, Sheshlivais of Parchas. Here you have a bunch of different commentators what this means. Rashi learns that it's just a regular ladder that has rungs, but in between each rung is a gap. Tosfos has another pshat. Let's see if we. What does it mean? Shlivais Parchas. Parchas means floating. So this is one pshat. This ladder right here. But there's a gap between them. I guess he's explaining that according to Rashi. But it's not, to me, it doesn't look like a gap. It looks like a board. But maybe that's what he means, parches, that these things are sticking out. Oh. I don't know where I saw the picture. I saw it in this one, in the Steinfeld. Let me show you. You see that up there? That's, he says, it's Tosfos pshat. It's like different tables, and they're not attached. So it's parches. Each one is floating. So, if the bottom rung has 4 tvachim, then great. That means, see, our issue is that anything that's avir, it's called miut ba'avir lav shmei miut. That's the expression. You see that in the Rashi, and we'll have it later in the Gemara. Miut ba'avir. Anything that's not directly on the ground doesn't diminish the size of the wall. So if it's standing on legs, it doesn't diminish the size of the wall. So here, if I have a ladder, the bottom rung could diminish the size of the wall, but the bottom rung needs to be the right size to do that. It has to be 4 tvachim. I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Mitzri. Or if it's more than Sulam Mitzri, the Hatsuri.
Yeah, it must be that we're dealing with the Tzuri, because the Mitzri wasn't considered permanent.
No, but I'm saying, but then Hatsuri, why would it be Mimayat? That it does have air between the rungs.
Yeah. Maybe it's just the bottom. I hear what you're asking. It's a good question. When we came to the Sula Matsuri, we didn't make a big deal about that. It's a good question.
I also have the question, by the way.
I'm not sure. Okay, let me see. Maybe it'll come up in something in the commentary. So here we're dealing with using the bottom rung to be the one that's going to diminish the size of the wall. If the bottom rung is the right size, it's 4 tvachim. Binami, you have another option. Let's say the top rung. The top rung is wider, so the ladder sort of gets wider as it goes up. But the rungs of the ladder are each one are within shleisha tvachim, so it's loved, and the top rung is good, so it's going to be considered that it's on the ground. So all of these rungs will be considered a miyat, be like one step up.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed the picture behind me. I don't have light in this room.
Yeah, I see the scaffolding.
Yeah, scaffolding nowadays has really what you're describing more in the Gemara of levels that you have the choice of making it wider to stand or smaller, closer.
Right.
So
Right.
It just seems more
That's interesting.
to the Gemara.
Yeah.
And do that on the side of building a wall.
Right. Very interesting.
I don't know.
Okay. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabbi Baravua. On top of now Ayin Ches. Nachman says in the name of Rabbi Baravua, Ziz hayetzim min hakaisel. Okay. Here's a protrusion from the wall. The wall has some sort of ledge that's sticking out. V'iniach alav sulam, kolshu, miyatai. And you put a ladder against the ledge. It's considered like the wall is diminished. So the ziz is a makam arba, so basically like this. I can use the bottom rung of my ladder, or I can use the top rung of my ladder. As long as one of them is the right size, 4 tvachim, if it's 4 by 4 or just 4. So then that's considered like access to the wall. Now, if each of the rungs are within 3 tvachim of each other, then it doesn't matter which one is 4 tvachim. It's going to be mimai at the wall because it's all considered on the ground because of blavud. So even if I don't have a ladder that's good enough, but I have a ledge sticking out of the wall that's 4 tvachim, I'm going to consider the ledge the top rung of the ladder. And that's within the rungs of the ladder, 3 tvachim of within the rungs of the ladder. And it's going to be considered like it's on the ground. That's only if you put it directly against the ledge. But if you put it next to it, what you did was you just widened the ledge, but you didn't attach it to the ladder. It's not going to work. So let's see the picture. Here's our ledge. And that's considered like it's on the floor. It's considered like it's on the floor because the ladder connects it to the floor by being 3 tvachim each rung within 3 tvachim. However, if you didn't put it directly against the ladder, then it's not considered like it's on the floor. And the ladder itself isn't good enough because the ladder isn't wide 4 tvachim. What does he say over here? He says, he says, even if it's within 3 tvachim to the side, on the side, it's not going to help. So lavud doesn't just do everything. Lavud, it needs to be on the top to be considered down. Lavud to the side and then down doesn't work. Okay. The next Gemara that we're going to learn is, what about if you have a wall that's above 10 Tvachim, let's say 19 Tvachim, you can put a ladder halfway up, and it would be considered like this part is diminished till the ground, and then you only have 9.5 Tvachim to the top. Okay, so it goes like this. You have a wall that's 19 Tvachim. You only need one ziz, one protrusion from the wall, one ledge, to put a ladder up to diminish the wall. Let's say it's 20, right above the limit. So then you need two. And was there a picture in this one? In the book, there's a picture. And, yeah, here we go. Shnei zizim. You have to go up here, and then you would go up to the next one. Okay, and then he says, Amar Rav Chizda v'hu shemidim zeh shelo keneged zeh. You can't put one ziz on top of another, one protrusion, one ledge on top of the other, because you can't get a ladder to go straight up. You need a ladder to be slanted. So you have to put it shelo keneged zeh, not directly on top of it. Okay, and we're going to discuss an amud that you're able to use. But if there's something sticking up from it, it makes it more difficult to use. But there is an opinion that says even if there's something sticking up, you can still hang things on it. And if there's going to be many things sticking up, it actually makes it easier to use because you can put some sort of table on top. Let's say you have an amud, a pillar, in the Rosh Hashanah that's 10 Tvachim tall, it's 4 Tvachim wide. V'notzba said you put in a peg on the top, kolshu, small amount, miyatai. You diminish the usage of the top. The top was 4 Tvachim, and now you can't use 4 Tvachim. So you messed up that top from becoming its own rishus. Amar Ravada Barava b'gvaya shleisha. That's if the peg is 3 Tvachim tall. It's not 3 Tvachim above the top of the amud, then it's considered like flat with the amud. Abaye v'Rava d'Amar Termayo af pish ein gevaya shleisha. Abaye and Rava both say it doesn't have to be this din in Rishuyos that it goes up. That's not the issue. My timer, why not? You just can't use it. It's a practical issue. If you have something in the middle, you can't put things down on it. Even if it's 3 Tvachim tall, my timer, you can still use that ledge, and you can use the peg on top. After the Taliba Midi, you can hang something on top. It's a hat rack. Amar lei Rav Acha Brei Rav Rabashi. Rav Acha Brei Rav asks Rabashi. Rabashi was the one that says one peg is fine, even if it's 3 Tvachim tall. Says Molo Kulabi Yasedis Mao. What about then? You can't use it. It's totally filled up. You're talking about hanging something on it. Now you can't even hang anything on it. You don't know what Rabbi Yechanan says. You have a pit, and when you dig the pit, you take the dirt and you put it on the side of the rim around the pit. And now, together with this dirt that's been piled up on the side and the pit, you now have a 10 Tvachim ditch. And you'd have to walk up the ledge and down in. So we're talking about that the area across the pit is 4 Tvachim, and the ledge itself is not 4 Tvachim unless you combine the ledge from side to side. You can't use it. There's a hole in the middle. It's not 4 Tvachim unless you go across the ditch from side to side. Talking about that you can put a board on top and it becomes raised. So too, also with all those pegs that are sticking up, you put a board on top so you can use the top of it. I'm Rav Yehuda, I'm Shmuel. Rav Yehuda says name is Shmuel. Kaisel Asara, Tzarech Sulam Arba Asalatire. Now we're learning about the incline of the ladder. If I have a wall that's 10 tfachim, I need a ladder of 14 tfachim. Why? Because I need a 4 tfachim slant to be able to use the ladder comfortably. Rabbi Yosef says it doesn't need to be 4, could be just 3 in a drop. Wow. 1 tefach away from the wall, a very small incline. What is they call those angles? Obtuse, whatever, I don't remember that. Anyway. Acute.
Acute.
Yeah, she remembers because it's small. Okay. Rav Huna Breder, Rav Yeshua Amar, Afilu Shiva Mashu. Rav Huna Breder, Rav Yeshua, is a big chiddush. He says even if it's straight up, even a ladder straight up, like a rope ladder sometimes, or whatever, just a ladder, they put it against the wall, that's also going to work. Now, it doesn't need to reach the top of the wall. It just needs to be within 3 tfachim of the top, because then I have the din of lavud. So even if it's a shiva mashu, 7 tfachim, the wall was 10, then I won't even have the, it doesn't need to have any incline. It would still be considered like.
So what's a chadasar then about?
11 was that the wall was 10 tfachim, and it was just 1 tefach away from the wall at the base on the bottom. That slight incline would already allow me to use it to have easy access to the top. All right.
I'm not getting it.
No, we're talking about the incline.
So if it's 11.
No. Yeah, let's see if there's a picture. Talking about to put it on a slant, it needs to be slightly longer. It's the barbachu yasa. You said you put something across the top. Okay. Here's our ladders. Talking about what's the distance? One said that needs to be 14. This would be 14 because that's the stretch out. Let's see further. See if we get it different. Yeah, this looks easier. This would be 14. I guess it's, what's that, 12? It's supposed to, we had a 13. Whatever. Then there's a 7. Oh, this is a different shot. This thesis is giving me a different shot. 7 tefachim this way. That's not how we were learning it. We were learning it like this. Sulam Arba Asar is number Aleph. That's 14 tefachim tall. Sulam Shlosh Asar Mashu is number Beis. Oh, that's what he means. You can put it up to the 9th tefach. Sulam Shiva Mashu is it can go up to the 7th. It still is an incline. I was learning it that it was more straight up. I don't know where I got that from. Then, okay, does that make sense if you say it like that?
Yeah, now I'm getting. That's what I'm saying. I was not sure which is it the straight, the this, or which part we were referring to. Okay.
So now, see Rashi and Shiva Mashu doesn't say that. Rashi says Sfirle Karav Damar Lakaman Sulam Zakuf Mamaya. It could be straight. That's where I was learning. That's where I was taking my pshat from. V'yizakef le'magil apachs migemura shakaysim. Okay. Amarav, let's leave it over here. We'll just learn. Amarav Sulam Zakuf Mamaya is the Gemara. That's a tradition. He doesn't know the reason for that tradition. We'll continue.